Passion public service announcement. Passionate. Let me tell you something.
So what is this Passion PSA podcast? Who am I? Well, they call me Passion, short for passion no last necessary. Why is there no last name necessary? Because the first name says it all. I am Passion and all that embodies. What do I do here? I give you the life coaching that you know you need, but don't enroll yourself in. When did I start? Actually, 2017. I'd leave a PSA on my Instagram regarding something I'd observed, and now we've evolved to this. Why do I do it? Why not? If even one person is able to take away one thing that changes their life, someone else's life, or changes the world for the better, then I've done what I was charged to do. So come on in, sit and listen for a while. There's something here for everyone at the Passion PSA podcast.
Greetings and salutations, my beloved passionates, newcomers, visitors, and guests. Welcome to another episode of the Passion PSA podcast, where I, Passion No Last Necessary, your Get You Right Guru, issue a weekly public service announcement about whatever I have observed or was on my mind. This is a for your consideration zone, where the objective is to offer you a perspective you may not have previously considered to A, expand your thinking, and B, aid you in becoming a better version of yourself, for yourself and others. This is a safe space, but not necessarily a delicate one. I will never rob you of your right to feel what you feel, the same way I won't sugarcoat whatever it is I have to say to make it more palatable. The goal is to get you to higher, more expanded thinking so you can operate as your highest and best self. If you are new here, affirmations are our first order of business before we get into it, so that we intentionally raise the vibration and to ensure that no matter what I say or how it may make you feel, we have intentionally started on the highest possible vibration and the same frequency. If you are ready, please go ahead and take a deep breath. You are always welcome to repeat after me or to use this time to state your own affirmations. I am committed to myself. I am committed to doing my best. I am committed to making my best effort. I am worth the greatness I give others. I deserve the first serving of my greatness and my wellness. I receive the abundance that Source has for me. I multiply it joyfully. I share it cheerfully. I pour from my overflow. Gratitude. Ashe, ashe, ashe. Passionates, I know I've had my foot on your necks the last few weeks. I know some of y'all were triggered by last week's episode because some of y'all are the caregiver for the dependent, and it needn't be that way. I know y'all wanted to tag them in the comments, but because you are dedicated passionates and you've been on this journey for a while, your higher self told you to chill and breathe through it and find a different outlet. I know some of you caught feelings because I was talking directly to you or about you. I know you got big mad and you want to throw me in a garbage can, and that's all right, Lucius. Okay? I'm still here and so are you. And I'm not taking my foot off your neck this week. So if you need to hit pause and go get you something to soothe your nerves, that's fine. I'll be here when you get back, okay? Now, truthfully, beloveds, I don't think I'll be decreasing any of the pressure that I've been applying anytime soon. Reason being, I'm on go. I'm not playing, and I'm not playing with you. I want to see you win. I don't necessarily need the credit for your win, but I'd like to be a contributor. I want to cheer you on through the journey and cheer you over the finish line. I don't know what kind of tools you show up with when you pull up each week, right? I do know that the greatest tool we all have is our minds. So if I can give you something to think about, if I can push you out of the comfort zone of what you've been thinking and push you into deeper or more broad spectrum analysis, then I know when you leave, you're equipped to do the work. So when you don't do it and you don't get the results, that's on you. Working in the school system showed me how great a disparity there is in environments. The schools that are the most densely populated, where critical thinking and conflict resolution need to be required learning in every grade, those are the places where they get none of it. So whether you're here for the day or you're here to stay, You won't leave saying no one ever taught me, no one ever told me, or no one ever showed me. Okay. I show you the in front of the camera, neat, relatively put together passion. Okay. And the behind the scenes fuzzy socks and flip flops passion, because I want you to have access to the true story. You can hold me 100% accountable when you have access to 100% of the story. But if I don't want to get held to the fire, I have to show up. I have to put in the work. I have to show and prove. Now, do I get it right all the time? A resounding hell nah. Do I get it right most of the time? That's probably arguable and possibly not in my favor. Either way, I have to show up. So what does it mean to you to show up for yourself? Have you actually posed that question to yourself? Have you made a list of ways that you can or should show up for yourself? And have you cross-referenced that with the ways that you actually do? Let me tell you why I ask. Last week, I asked you if you would show up for someone who didn't show up for themselves in the context of having to stop living your life or curtail how you live your life after they lived their life all footloose and fancy free, and now they need someone to take care of them. And that made me think of a few things. There are a lot of people that will only show up for others because they're dependent on validation from others. So in their minds, that is how they show up for themselves. They dedicate themselves to being available for others because that I couldn't have done it without you and you mean so much to me. That reassurance edifies them. And you have people like me who are fixers. We don't like to see people in bad shape. We don't like to see them hurting, struggling, suffering. So it's our default to try to fix it as swiftly as possible. And that's even when we don't like the person. Imagine that. We're not looking for the validation. We'd be satisfied with a fraction of what we give in reciprocity. Like, give me a piece of what I gave you and I'm grateful. But a lot of us haven't identified what showing up for ourselves looks like. The last 2 weeks, it felt like the conversation was more centered around or focused on health. And it was. But assuming you're in great physical health, how are you showing up in all the other areas? I know for me, for a very long time, I didn't prioritize showing up for me. I don't even think I knew that was a thing. And if I did, it definitely wasn't registering in my brain as an established fact. I was available to whoever needed me or to whomever shared their concerns with me. My schoolwork fell by the wayside. I may have gotten into trouble at work because I was attending to someone's situation. Things in my house went undone because I was repairing things in someone else's house. It wasn't until very late in my life that I started showing up for myself more. And sadly, more than any other reason, that was probably prompted by the fact that there simply was little to no reciprocity from the people that I poured into. Showing up for yourself because no one is showing up for you is a terrible reason to do the work. Showing up for yourself because you deserve it is where you should start. And if for no other reason, because showing up for yourself properly will enable you to show up for others with proper boundaries and with no resentment if those people don't reciprocate. We know what showing up for us looks like when it comes from others, right? We know what kind of availability we expect. So how available are you to you? Do you pray when you have time or when you get around to it and after everything else is done and everyone else's questions are answered? Or do you pray and then make the rest of the stuff fit in after you've prayed because you know prayer sets the tone? Do you write and state affirmations repeatedly throughout the day because you know that's an intentional act of speaking life to your situation and speaking life over yourself? Or do you only say them when you watch the episodes? Do you even say them when you're watching the episode? 'Cause I know someone told me that they just be staring at a wall until I'm finished. And that was real wild, but when they said it, I had to realize that a lot more of you might be doing that as well. And I mean, whatever, to each your own. Do you prioritize taking a bath at least once a week so you can relax your body in a pool of detoxifying minerals infused with essential oils that also provides you with aromatherapy? Or do you get in the shower, wash the hot spots, only the front of your trunk because you can't reach your back and hope the runoff soap got the dirt off the rest of you? We know what kind of availability we expect, right? We know what kind of support we expect. We expect honesty and respect from others, but are you being honest with yourself? I've told you before, I'm honest with myself to a fault. So there are many times when others may feel like I'm not giving myself enough grace, while in truth, I feel like to give myself grace is excusing my inaction or ball fumbling. If the episode should have and could have been written before Tuesday, but I allowed myself to do something that didn't absolutely need to be completed by a certain time on Tuesday, grace because I was still doing something important is cool. But being honest with myself about poor prioritization is critical to me not doing the same thing again. I have to hold myself accountable until I correct the issue. Otherwise, I'll be giving myself grace for the rest of my life. And at the end of my life, still be wrestling with something that I could have overcome a lifetime ago. Now, with respect, many don't even know the different definitions and usages. And we're not going to deep dive today, even though y'all already know I went and consulted with my good friends Merriam and Webster to give you some adequate leadership on this. Okay, Collins, Cambridge, and Macmillan, we're pretty much on the same type of time. But respect in this context is high or special regard. So you want and expect a certain level of respect from your peer group, but do you hold yourself in high or special regard? And if so, how do you show yourself that? When you brush your teeth, are you doing a drive-by or are you taking time to make sure all surfaces are covered? Do you live like a junkyard dog or do you take the time to clean and put things in order? Do you maintain your space because you live there or because company is coming and you don't want to be shamed? And trust me, I get how challenging it is to stay on top of things like cleaning the house. I feel like my house is in a state of constant construction because there's always something that needs to be done. Now, on the one hand, that could be a reflection of what's going on internally. And because I'm always deconstructing and reconstructing myself, my external environment reflects that. It could also be because I'm notorious for starting things and not finishing. And again, I could give myself grace with 7 out of 10 unfinished projects in my home because there were legit extenuating factors that held up the progress. And in order not to just give up hope, I left them unfinished with every intention to return to them, but moved on in the meantime because there were other things that needed to be done. But now for the other 3 out of those 10, I have to call myself out and admit that I just didn't want to keep going. So I postponed it. I put it off. I made an excuse. And now, long later, it's still undone. Hectic schedules often leave you with a decision to make on what's going to get done and what's going to have to wait. Same time, not cleaning the house because you're constantly at work. Friend, you showing up for the job, not for you. Nah, Passion, I guess my bread. I'm showing up for me. You forfeiting sleep to get to work on time is showing up for the job. Getting adequate sleep to get to work on time and get through the day is showing up for you. You thinking about and working on work-related projects when you're off the clock is you showing up for the job. Leaving the job at the punch clock until it's time to clock back in is showing up for you. If you're too exhausted or you end up unwell from working so hard to get your bread, then you're not the one that benefited from that hard work. The job got what they needed. They needed the coverage. They needed the manpower. And if the money you got from showing up for the job is now money you're spending on a service you wouldn't have needed to spend it on if you hadn't given so much to the job in the first place, you can argue that you got your bread, but you can't argue that it's serving you ideally. You deserve better than that. And a lot of people know they deserve a night out because they went to their job and did the bare minimum for 40 hours in a week. I'm not talking about those of you who actually worked hard for your check. I'm talking about the ones who spend 75 to 85% of their day on their phone, texting, looking at social media, and doing whatever else they can think of. And then they're so worn out from the mental gymnastics they did thinking about everything but the job. They deserve a Tuesday night out when the work week started on Monday and they were off Saturday and Sunday. They deserve a drink or deserve. They deserve a vacation. I'm not saying you don't deserve to treat yourself to things you enjoy, but it's wild that you feel like you deserve all the privileges and treats and luxuries from the effort you've put in, but you won't give yourself the same level of sacrifice you'll give to everyone else. And I know most of us were taught backwards, right? We were taught that selflessness was the way. We were taught to do whatever we had to do to keep that job. But when that job decides to downsize your position or outsource your department, they don't measure any of the sacrifices you made. Most of the decision makers are not going to grieve letting you go, and they're not going to keep up with your life after you're gone. They're going to keep on living. They're going to be glad it wasn't them. And they're going to strategize just in case their number might be coming up next. So if you believe you deserve the best from others, you should know that you deserve exponentially better than the best from yourself. We have to hold ourselves accountable with the same conviction that we declare our entitlements. We also need to be mindful to show up for ourselves across the board. Showing up for yourself in one place while everything falls asunder ain't it either. I find myself in that position really often now, right? Because building a business is wild. You show up somewhere thinking you know something, and then they turn your mind into a fireworks display when they show you all the things you don't know. So now you research just one of those things, and here you go tumbling down a rabbit hole. And when you finally do make it back to the surface, there are still 10 other subjects or factoids to take you down other rabbit holes. Building a business while being a full-time employee, that's wild because the job is the sponsor and benefactor until the business breaks even and eventually starts turning a profit. But the job schedule might require you to be there or leave home right when you hit a stride with some business work. Maybe the requirement is to work on days that would be perfect for you to network, and instead of networking, you're just working. So now you have to choose between the job, which is sustaining you, and the business you're working on to sustain you indefinitely. Showing up for myself by working behind the scenes to build and scale the business isn't enough if I'm not making doctor's appointments, I'm not maintaining my home, I'm not maintaining my hair, not showing up on the job per the agreement. So while we work at showing up for ourselves better, we have to make sure we keep balance at the forefront. I've been showing up for what one woman does. Day in, day out, I'm building this business. I'm working on episodes for the pod. I'm developing other shows. We just did a set relocation, as you can see, and the set redesign is still in progress. And that makes sense, right? Because what one woman does is my baby. That's the legacy I'm going to leave the world. But while I'm still in the world, I have to show up in my life as well. I have to show up in the home, do the laundry, do the dishes, clean out the fridge, clean the floors, the windows. All of that needs to be maintenance. Keeping it clean is important, but I also have to be mindful of who I allow inside my home and the energy they come with. And that's inclusive of the people that I'm allowing on a video call and how I allow them in, whether I have a blur up or I have the logo behind me. Being mindful of who I allow into my inner circle of friendship. Ladies, who you're allowing into your body. Fellas, being mindful of whose person you're entering. All of these are ways we can and should show up for ourselves. Make the commitment to be to yourself who you would want your top performer to be if you were a business owner with employees. Show up for you the way you show up for that check. Now, I'm not talking about the begrudging part, okay? But I am talking about the consistent part. Show up for you the way new mothers show up for their newborns. Because don't you think you deserve that? I know I've asked you 1,000 questions today. Show up for yourself by answering them honestly. Showing up for yourself may look different to me than it does to you, so I can only give you suggestions. But if you want the best results for you, it's going to require the best output from you. You shut up for me by staying to the end of the episode. So you might as well drop me a comment, questions, concerns, commendations, criticisms, or critiques, because they're all welcome. Listener letters can be sent to my brilliant friend passion@gmail.com. Whether you are viewing or listening on your preferred podcast platform, like, subscribe, turn on your notifications, and share. Help me help others help themselves. If you would like to be a financial contributor, donations can be made via Podbean, PayPal, Cash App, Linktree, or Zelle. All the links are in the description box. Every little bit helps. It all goes back into the pod. Your Get You Right Guru is signing off, y'all. Go forth. Be great. Be filled with bliss. Be armed and empowered with knowledge. Show up at the job. Show up in your relationships. But most importantly, show up for yourself. Show up and show out. Because no one should be getting more of your greatness from you than you are. In all things, be passionate. See you later.